So what kind of tools do you need to work on your RC? In this video, we're going to cover the basics of RC tools. Stay tuned. Okay, so you want to work on your own RC cars. You either got to make some adjustments, you are going to do some upgrades, whatever the case may be. What are some of the very basic things you're going to need to work on your RC car? And let me highlight, basic. Can get way more complex. You can get into a lot more, and we're going to do a video on that and show you some of the more advanced tools that you might want to have down the line. But let's start with hex drivers. Most of your 1/10 scale RC cars, and some of your bigger and little, some of your smaller, will require you to have a 2mm hex driver. You'll also want to look at getting a 1.5mm, a 2.5mm, and then if you're running anything bigger than a 10th scale, at least consider getting a 3mm. These are the basic drivers you're going to need. Now you're also going to want to have Phillips head, flathead screwdrivers. These are on the smaller side, and you're going to want large, small, you're going to want all kinds of different sizes. You're also going to need something to remove the lug nuts holding your wheel on. Maybe there are potential other nuts in there you need to access and remove. This is 4mm and this is a 7mm, which is one of your more common sizes. And real durable, real tough. This is MIP brand. That's what I use here. There's some other really good options out there as well. This is just my preference. I definitely recommend you don't go cheap on your tools. My very first set of hex drivers, it wasn't too long until I rounded off the inside of a nut, on the inside of a screw. I had to drill it out, had to get the Dremel tool involved. It was ugly. Now, when you buy an RTR ready to run, it's probably going to come with something like this. It has multiple different sizes on it. And this is fine till you get your own tools, until you get a nicer set of tools, but I wouldn't use this forever. Now, some other things. Needle nose pliers can be invaluable. You get down in tight little spaces to kind of hang on to some slippery parts. You can use these when you're working on shocks. Not necessarily recommended, but that's how I started, was using this and some electrical tape. You're also going to want some things to be able to cut and trim your plastic, for example, if you have to trim back a body or trim back different parts on your rig. This is a hobby knife, an X-Acto knife, and they come with multiple different shapes of blades. You can also just use a basic carpenter's knife if you want. Okay. And then scissors are always an option. Right? I recommend you have at least one very sharp knife, a razor blade quality knife like a hobby knife, and then a pair of scissors. You're also going to want to have a few disposable pieces, some tools, but not tools. First and foremost, painter's tape. Painter's tape is really nice because it can hold things securely. It's easy to tear, and it doesn't leave behind much residue, and sometimes none. Okay. It's easy to come on and off. Thread locker. You're going to want the kind of the medium duty, the blue thread locker, whether it's Loctite. This is Zap brand. Usually you'll see also white and red and a few other colors. Anytime you're screwing something metal into something else that's metal, whether it's in a pre-tapped hole or you're putting on a nut onto a bolt, use thread locker, because the vibration and just the general wear and tear that these RC cars take your metal screws can back out. Now you don't need to use this with plastic. A word of warning though, the red is heavy duty, and if you use the red, hopefully whatever those things are, you don't need to get them apart, because if you do, it's going to require a lot of heat. It's going to require some extra effort, whereas this not so much. You're going to want to keep around some double-sided tape. You never know when maybe your ESC pops loose or your receiver, you know, whatever the case may be, and just secure it with some of this. This is Scotch brand. I kind of got this, it's a little bit wider, it's 25 feet long, but it works and it lasts a long time. Your RC is going to have either bushings or bearings, preferably, around any surfaces where there is where things are going to turn. So at your axle, there are going to be bearings or bushings, whatever the case may be. On your brushed motors, there are going to be bearings or bushings, and it's good to have this kind of oil around. And what you're going to do with this is, after you get done running your car and you've cleaned it and you've gone through the process of just getting it back in good enough shape where it can be stored, and I always recommend that after you run your cars, you give them a nice cleaning. It doesn't have to be complete disassembly, scrub every crevice with a toothbrush kind of cleaning, but you don't need to put them up dirty. And you also don't want to put them up where they can rust. So you just put a little bit of this on all of the bearings on the car or the bushings. Along the same lines, you might want to take some silicone, grease some of the kind that you spray. I usually spray some on a little piece of plastic or paper towel or something. Dip Q-tip on it, and I do all of the tops of the screw heads so that they don't rust. So another thing to have in your toolkit, zip ties. Zip ties can do so many things for you. You can use them in so many different ways. I recommend different lengths, different widths. If you're like me and you use the colors for, you know, specific parts of your build, so maybe you're strapping in all of your motor wires with green, you're strapping them down to the chassis, and maybe you're using red for your light kit or something like that. One other final thing that I would like to point out is a headlamp. Headlamps are absolutely fantastic and so helpful when you're leaning over your car and you're looking down and you're dealing with shadow, and maybe it's a little tight area, and you see this one kind of flips up and down, and I can flip it over and now I have some light, right? I can look down in, I can see the screws better. You don't have to spend a ton of money on these. This is just a cheap little Energizer one I got at like a hardware store or Walmart or something like that. So I recommend you add one of these to your toolkit as well. So these are just the basics, just the minimum you need to get things going, to be able to customize your car, to be able to do replacement parts, you know, every little thing you want to do to make changes. There's a lot more, right? These are just the basics. So I hope you've learned a lot here. I hope you have an understanding of what is necessary, what is really fundamental for you as you enter the RC hobby. We're going to do another video, have it up shortly, on some of the more advanced tools. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to like and subscribe, hit that little bell, get a notification every time we post a new video. And thanks for watching.